Yo, hell yeah. Wyatt begins in like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yo, welcome to Wyatt, and I'm your host, Wyatt O'Brien Evans. Brrr, woof, goddammit, woof, 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 woof. Hey, to all my YouTubers out there, if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, just click that subscribe button at the bottom of your screen. Just click it, click it, click it. I loves to click it. Yeah. This edition of Wyatt is rather appetizing. Our special guest is Mr. Bryan Knight. He's quite the eclectic individual, y'all. He is a full-service man for hire. He's an adult performer, and he's a comic book producer. We're going to find out if, these professions have a certain interconnectivity, a certain synergy for him, as well as other delightful things. So let's get it on. So without further ado, Wyatt welcomes Mr. Bryan Knight. Talk at me. How the hell are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on your show today. I'm really happy we finally got together.
Well, listen, my friend, thank you for stopping by, Wyatt. And you know what? I wanted to have you on because you are a very eclectic individual. I mean, you are a full service man for hire. You're an adult performer. You're a comic book producer. So let me ask you, first of all, Bryan, why those professions? Do they have like an interconnectivity? Do they have a certain synergy for you? Why those three?
Well, first and foremost, I'm an explorer. I love to have fun and I love to be alive. So I got into full service sex work a long time ago because I couldn't find work as a scientist. And after looking for years, I needed to pay bills. And afterwards, I dedicated myself to doing the best I could in the situation that I had. The comic books came about because I was bored. In 2012, I was just bored of what I was doing, and I wanted to make one comic book because I was inspired by Neil Gaiman's The Sandman series, which just recently came on Netflix, and I wanted to tell a story in that medium. I had a whole different idea at the time, and then in 2015, when the feds raided Rent Boy, which was important for so many men sex workers to get work, I shifted focus because I realized that most of the stories and wisdom that men workers have accumulated over lifetimes are lost or hidden or forgotten because of stigma and because it's not seen as valuable. And I think my friends and coworkers are important. I think the wisdom that I've gained is important. So I wanted to put it in a format that was fun and accessible and artistic for me to remember, for my friends to remember, and for other people to understand what our lives are like. And everything else just branched out of that.
Well, Bryan, you are very, very articulate, and what you said is profound. I mean, because what you said is very nuanced, and you put a lot of different colors, on the situation. Because for my online home, wyattevans.com, I do a periodic series about an escort in New York, and he talks about what's going on in his life, that sort of thing. And he as well, like in 2008, when the bottom dropped out of the economy, I mean, he was a professional, but he needed to pay the bills and put food in his mouth. And that's what he did. So,
yeah. And not only the basic survival stuff, a lot of workers do it for survival. And that's a whole big conversation that we have to have. I recognize I'm privileged in that I had support coming into this work, and I was able to pay off debt. I was able to not have to decide between medical insurance and rent. And I see so many people having to make those decisions. And I feel very fortunate that at this time I don't have to. But
Right.
the way I got to this point was not what I was supposed to do. But I did it because it worked. And this is part of a larger, just general consciousness people are having, that the way we work and the way we're told to take care of ourselves, it's not working. So
You're right.
that's a big
Absolutely.
cultural shift we're all becoming aware of. And I wanted to have some fun. Like, the comic was kind of my way too, of just having a bit of fun with it. We're all kind of screwed, but at least we can laugh about it.
I get you. Well, my audience, let me tell you something. Mr. Knight here is like, he's a huge guy. He's big, 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 big. He's 6'6", 300 pounds. So, Bryan, how's that working for you?
Well, I've been this way ever since I was 12 years old. I had a bet with a classmate that I would get to over 6 feet tall by the end of sixth grade, and I won, and I kept going. So once I set my mind to something, I tend to be a bit extra.
Well, that's a good thing. And we're going to do a deep dive a little bit later into what you do professionally. But right now, let's take a trip through the corridors of time, my friend, so our audience can learn more about you. So, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in New York City on the 8th floor of NYU Hospital, where my brothers were also brought into this world. And luckily, my parents had the foresight to not have me circumcised.
Why is that? I mean, now inquiring minds want to know, my friend.
So it's a tradition in hospitals that by default, boys are circumcised. So when I was born, my parents were asked, do you want him cut or uncut? And they said no, because we're from South America. Generally, we're not cut. So I'm glad my parents did that for me.
Okay, cool. I always liked it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, finish what you were going to say.
Oh, no, and I was raised in Manhattan and a little bit in New Jersey and a little bit in Miami, but always like coming back to New York because it's where I know and still has things to offer me.
Well, that makes sense. Now, I always like to ask my special guest this question because I get a chuckle out of it. And actually, it gives a window into who you really are. And here it is, my friend. What was Bryan like as a little boy, a little nipper? Give us like 3 characteristics or qualities that best describe you.
Okay. So the first one I could remember was that I had no middle stages between crawling and walking. On my first birthday, there was a party at my house, and I just got up and started walking. There was no in between. Whoa. I wanted to show everyone what I could do, and I was very enthusiastic about it. Another thing, as a kid, what did I want to do? Love to play hide and seek. I loved finding people, and I loved to be found. That was my favorite game as a kid.
Okay.
And I ended up, and that kind of extended to my personal passion for scavenger hunts and searching for history, for places of history and places of wonder. So that was an extension. And another thing as a kid, I was always trying new things. Like when the Scholastic book catalog came in, it promised me for like $3 how to do cat's cradle and calligraphy and how to cook and how to craft origami. So I was always excited to try new things.
Mm. That's a hell of a lot right there, my friend. I love it.
Yeah. Not more than most of the audience members. It's like most audience members have something about them that makes them really excited to be alive. This is, I really appreciate that. Most people have something like that, and I've learned to appreciate that as I've gotten to know people better.
Right. Well, what salient experiences have you had growing up that helped shape you into the person that you are today? Anything come to mind?
Oh, so many. I mean, where do I start? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is a precursor to my sex work. When I was in school, they introduced a status system for like the good kids. So if you did your grades and you didn't cause trouble, you had the privileges to go out and you go get lunch off campus. Well, I quickly started getting offers from people who did not meet this criteria. They would pay quite a hefty fee for me to use my privilege to bring them back lunch. And my teachers like kill that right away. And the very people who asked me to do this for them were the first ones to laugh and make fun of me when I lost my privilege. So I learned a lot from that experience.
Okay.
And many others. I mean, moments of joy, moments of heartache, moments of inspiration. I have a pretty solid memory for like formative events, and I've had to think a lot on it while writing and making things that readers and audience members can connect with. So I've had to do a lot of introspection and cataloging of my experiences in order to be a better writer and a better speaker.
Awesome. Okay, Bryan, let us fast forward to the here and now, and let's talk about being a full service man for hire. Besides the money, there's got to be more of an allure. There's got to be another compelling reason why you do what you do. So what is that?
First of all, the money is a huge reason. Money is fantastic. If you have money, you can do a lot. So if someone wants to do my work just for the money, that is okay. I want it to be clear, like people do work for money to live, and that is okay. Me, I started to take a deeper interest in what I was doing because there were so many events that made me curious, that stimulated me, that challenged me. So even now, I'm having events and situations that are exciting and challenging and make me elevate what I can do, which is to bring fun and intimacy and connection and fulfillment into the lives of people. So it makes me excited. And there are lots of things. Oh my gosh, the times I've been surprised. I still get surprised. I still get surprised with requests. I still get surprised with motivations. I get surprised with when things fail spectacularly. I try to keep those to a minimum, but I'm grateful for those too, and as long as they don't hurt me in a permanent way.
Okay, well,
let me give an example of something that excites me. A few years ago, I was having treatment for anal cancer, very early stages.
Ooh,
They
I'm so
got
sorry.
it. Thank you. They got it early screening. It's clear. I just had some complications, but I couldn't work. So
Right.
what do you do when your job is physical, but you can't be physical? So I started to lead tours. I would offer clients custom tours with itineraries around the city because that didn't require them to be physical. And I could tell stories and I could get them engaged. And I ended up leading a lot of tours. So people who came to me for one thing were suddenly interested and intrigued by other things I could provide them, which was to take an active interest in the spaces and environments around them in an engaging way. So I had to pivot suddenly using one of my own interests, and people liked it and they were receptive to it, which surprised me because when you come for one thing, but you get something else,
Right.
not everybody likes that, but a lot of people did. So that was nice. That was a nice surprise.
Man, you are resourceful. I mean, kudos for you and to you rather. And I'm so glad that you beat the cancer as well. Yeah. What
And
Bryan?
I'd also like to add this like medical PSA that everybody should get like screenings at least once a year for anal colon cancer. Early detection is the best prevention. Everybody take care of your butt health.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. What type of clients do you attract?
So clients hire me for 13 reasons. And 13 reasons. And the demographic really depends on who has money, like who has money to spend on a luxury service, and can they see and communicate with me. So at the beginning of my career, when I was younger, I had like 35 to 65 professional men, usually own their own business or like mid-level management. I didn't attract celebrities and CEOs because that's not my personality. And that demographic is an entirely different headspace and an entirely different preparation. And there are some that service more blue collar working class people. And I did that a little bit when I lived in the Hudson Valley. So I have some experience because I know a lot of working class people, so I could connect with them. I tend to go for like middle class, like management types. That's my demographic, but each worker tends to attract a different part of the demographic.
Certainly. Do you have to prepare emotionally and mentally before seeing a client?
Oh yeah, because sometimes I don't ask for photographs. Women in the business will ask
You
for.
don't?
Yeah.
Wow.
So women ask for IDs and background checks, and women have to deal with so much more threats of violence than men do. Although men do have to deal with these, we generally internalize and assume that we don't. So in my experience, most of the time it's been okay. But I don't ask for photographs. I found out that my personality does not depend on a physical image. In fact, a physical image can actually intimidate me. So I listen to a person's voice and how they communicate, and that's usually what I need. And then when they arrive, we do what we want to do.
Well, Bryan, that's exceptional. Let's do this. Let's say I want to use your services. I make the call. How would you put me at ease and tell the audience how you would proceed with that call?
Okay, so a lot of professionals do not even take the time to do a phone interview with the client before visiting. So just the phone interview by itself is a mark of trust.
Right.
I'm transparent about my intentions from the beginning. I understand that I'm being asked to provide a service, and that if they choose to select me, they are expected to follow through. I do a low pressure, informative sales interview, and we find out if we're a match. I again, very low pressure because ultimately they're here to have fun. And I make it clear I'm interested in how we communicate, if we can communicate our needs clearly, if we can follow through, and if we can show concern for each other. Like basic things, but these are my basic 3 requirements. If those 3 requirements are met, we'll probably be okay. And when someone hears me, they can see I'm a real person, that I am paying attention to them, that I am thinking about them, that I am taking what I'm doing very consciously and directly. So they see that there's an organized process. So when someone hears me, they hear that, oh, he knows what he's doing. He has a method. He has expectations. He communicates clearly. And whether or not they decide to go with me is fine. But the process is very transparent.
Well, yeah, your process is very organized and transparent because I've gone to your website, and when someone wants to book an appointment with you, you ask the right questions. You get a great feel, I believe, of who you're going to see, who would like to use your services. And also on your rentmen.com page, you've got excellent reviews. So, question, let's say, for example, I book an appointment with you. I've said I'm 5'10", like, I don't know, 200, decent build. But I show up 5'10" and like, terribly out of shape, weighing more than I said. So in other words, I lied. How do you proceed? Okay. Yeah.
So let's look at the fundamental premises of your suggestion. Mm-hmm. Unless someone is asking me to lift them, carry them, or move them around, I generally don't ask height. So I have someone coming in. I'm doing a scene with someone next week who's 5'2". So there are some logistics we have to get around to do that filming, but that's very minor. As far as weight, the weight doesn't matter to me so much. If I, if let's say, again, lift and carry, popular request, I need to know the weight, like around 240, 250 pounds is about the max that I can lift comfortably. Yeah. And beyond that, I mean, I once had someone 400 pounds ask me if I could do a bench press overhead. And what? I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not strong enough yet. No. And so the weight only comes up when the weight is an issue. Mm-hmm. Now, when people are concerned about their body image or being discriminated against, they'll usually be pretty upfront with it that, like, I'm overweight, I'm not in shape like you, is that okay? They ask me to check in to make sure that I am okay and welcoming of their body type, which for the most part, yes. Again, a lot of workers are okay with different body types, and some workers don't work with certain body types, and that's their thing. So they'll usually be pretty upfront. Like, the most people who visit do not lie about those physicalities. I mean, they may not mention something, like they may not mention a medical issue. Like one time I went to see someone, he didn't tell me he had prosthetic legs. So he answers me at the door, looks normal, sits down on the bed, takes off his shoes, and then takes off his legs. So that was a little shocking.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah. Or like I walk in, someone named Michael hires me, and then Michaela answers the door in 6-inch stiletto heels that threaten to gouge my eyes out. Like, I would have liked a little warning before that.
Me too.
Just a little warning. That would have been appreciated.
Just a squoosh. Just a little bit.
Just a squoosh. Just a squoosh.
Thank you.
So usually when someone doesn't tell me something like that, most of the time it's like, okay, this is happening, mentally recalibrate or take a break and move on. Like you learn to roll with some unexpected things.
Roll
what's
with
the most unexpected one?
Okay.
What was the most unexpected thing I had to walk in on? Oh, goodness. I remember one time, Sunday morning, I meet a visitor in Queens. He answers the door with two black eyes.
Oh, no,
And
man.
apparently he'd fallen down the stairs drunk the previous night. Took care of my fee up front, walk upstairs to entertain him, and the room is filled with like 20 people that I wasn't expecting. And not one of them acknowledges me. It's like I'm invisible in the room. That was creepy.
Yeah. Well, did you?
Nothing else odd or disruptive happened beyond that. I did my job and then went home, but that was one that I needed a pause for a moment to adjust to the situation.
Yeah. Have you had any like really troublesome, pain in the ass clients? And if so, how did you handle them? How did you make the session successful and pleasurable?
Okay. So first I want to proceed answering that with that the majority of visitors are not troublesome. The majority are not criminals. The majority are not perverts. The majority are not problems. Usually when people ask me like worst case scenario questions, they have this at the front of the mind, and then they imagine like all potential visitors share this potential problem. And I'm just proceeding answering that by challenging that implicit cultural stereotype. Now that I've done that, I can answer like difficult case scenarios. The difficult ones are when either the communication is poor, or there is an unexpected element at play that neither of us foresaw that I have to deal with.
Right.
I recently had a troublesome visitor. He lives nearby. He's actually a descendant of the Von Trapp family, of all things, without giving too much away.
Yeah.
So like sound of music shit. But I saw him once, no problem. Talked with him on and off, no problem.
Right.
He invites me over. Simple request. But when I arrive, he has this shitty little dog, this barking, nasty little dog that will not shut up and is nipping at my nuts.
Wait a minute.
Like,
Wait a minute.
Hold
it. Not your feet, but your nuts?
He is jumping and going for the tennis ball.
Damn, he's bold. Okay.
So I said, we got to put him in the bathroom or you got to euthanize him.
Hilarious.
So, and then I realized, oh no, he's drunk. Oh no, he's high. Oh no, this is making me uncomfortable. Oh no, he doesn't have cash. He wants to pay me digitally. Huge red flag when someone who is high and unable and with a shitty dog is not ready to pay you in cash. Huge red flag. But my mistake, I believe, because I had seen him before, that he respected me. My mistake. We'll get to that. So we're starting to do our thing, and then there's a buzz at the door. He invited someone over without my permission to join us, without warning us. And I remember, and then he brings him up, and I'm like, I'm really not feeling comfortable with this.
And
so
if he does this, and you agree the fee has got to be more than what was agreed upon previously, right?
Now, at this point, looking back, I completely lost control of the situation, and I only wish I had left sooner, but let me finish the story because it's interesting.
Sure.
So guy comes up, for privacy's sake, we're going to call him Donald. Good looking ginger, like actually like way out of his league, comes over, and he imagined that some three-way was going to happen, but Donald is clearly uncomfortable with the situation. I can see it on his face, and locks himself in the bathroom to entertain himself with the puppy while smoking a cigarette. And the mood is just kind of dead at that point, and the client is just trying to force it. And I'm saying, this is not a good idea. I'm gonna go because my time was up. Like after all this, my time, like, because you get paid for time only, not for this bullshit.
Right.
Sorry, bull hockey. And so it's sad because the fellow Donald agreed to come over originally to spend. The idea was to spend the night with the client, so he didn't have to take the long train home back to Connecticut. And after I left, Donald left too because he didn't want to stick around either. So client didn't get any, got rejected by both of us, and he's left with a shitty dog. And he's like begging me to come back, but I'm on a date with my husband because I'm not compromising my personal life for his nonsense. And then he reverses the charge. He reverses the charge. And it's like, well, I kind of walked into that one. Like, God damn it. It's like,
Wow.
Cash only for party and play. Always. Sorry. Like, there are so many nuances to drug use and so many nuances to chemical sex that I'm still learning, but still my hard and fast rule is if you're using something, cash only.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Is there anything you will not do with a client?
Oh yeah, there's a lot I won't do. It's like you learn in this work pretty quickly what your limits are, and people, I mean, this work like puts it on display fully, but everyone is always testing your limits in some way. Like people in general, even civilians. Civilians in the sex industry are referred to people who are not in the sex industry, and they're not people who hire either. So that's just a phrase for the listeners to know. Like when we refer to civilians, that's who we mean. Yes, there are things, but I've been surprised. There have been a lot of things I didn't think I would do that I was okay with. And then there were things that I would never do again. Like I had this one guy, he could only find satisfaction at the moment by hearing glass bottles break. Like
what?
at the peak moment, he needed shattering glass bottles in order to be satisfied.
So right before orgasm, he needed that.
Yep. During his formative years, he heard his alcoholic father smashing bottles, and that left an imprint on him.
Heavy.
So, and again, one of those things where I wasn't warned, and I wish I'd had earplugs because I ended up with tinnitus for a week after that. So I will not do that again. Not without earplugs.
Wow. Okay.
So again, most of the problems come down to poor communication.
Right.
And I try very hard to take care of this communication, but because of the criminalized status of sex work, it makes some forms of communication legal liabilities, and it makes some forms of just open communication difficult to do. Like, how familiar are you with the FOSTA SESTA law that was passed in 2017?
To be honest with you, not very.
Okay, so it is super important for many reasons, and everyone should look at it, but it relates to this episode, for example. Like, me telling you how I do things in my job and how to improve it is technically a violation of federal law. No one's ever actually used it, but let's say YouTube lets this video go, and I'm talking about how to do things well and how to be safe, even being safe, not necessarily even making money in a questionably legal industry, but even being safe. Technically, it's a violation of federal law, and the law is so fucked up for so many reasons. It was made originally to help survive with the intent of helping survivors, but it was packed full of really bad law stuff and ended up having a really bad impact in a lot of ways for people who aren't even in the business. So definitely everybody should look that up, and even civilians, because it affects civilians too.
Wow. Bryan, thank you for this amazing insight. Let's move on to you being your role as an adult performer. Have you done work? Have you done studio work and just for fans, only fans? Combination
I
of?
did studio work. What most people were surprised with was that I didn't work for a single studio because I wasn't like an A-lister.
Okay.
So contractors would film scenes with me and co-performers and then sell them to different companies who would purchase them. So it's like Whole Foods. Like Whole Foods are a supermarket purchasing products from different suppliers. So
right.
People are usually surprised to hear that process of how videos are distributed. And then I stopped that for a while. I was dealing with medical issues and personal issues, and now I've been doing a lot of content with performers. And
okay.
I have more control over who I perform with. There's a lot more overhead because there's legal paperwork and editing. I hate the editing. It's like 30 minutes of performance and then 3 to 4 hours of editing, which is just mind-numbing for me. So I'd rather farm it out to someone for a fee. It promises to decentralize the industry and promises to make it more equal, but there are still issues for reasons. So it's still got a long way to go. But now someone who doesn't have a six-pack and someone who isn't like traditionally beautiful can be very successful. I've known quite a few people who've surprised me and surprised the world by being very different and being very celebrated because of it. I like the potential of it.
Okay. On film, what type of scene do you prefer? Do you prefer one-on-ones? Do you prefer threesomes, orgies, and why?
I don't care really what the iteration is. The most important thing to me is the expression of passion and fun, because that is ultimately why we watch it. We watch it to viscerally feel what it would be like in that situation. And I want to make videos that make people feel.
Right.
So that's my priority.
Okay. And that makes sense because you can watch some porn and it's like, it's cold, it's detached. Other scenes you watch, you can tell that these people are really into it. There's the fire, there's the passion, there's that engagement. So I definitely know what you're saying. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, here's a question.
So this felt... Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, this fellow who's like 5'2", 5'3", he's very enthusiastic. We have a good natural chemistry, so we're already like talking about things we want to include without over-scripting it. Right. So like we're talking about things our fans want to see, things we want to do personally. And we've even, I've been surprised and pleased. Like we've had like mental health issue, like discussions. I did a performance recently with someone who asked me, we had a talk, and I was the first person to top him on film after he had some trauma bottoming. So we had some mental health talks and we went through it. It was a little intimidating, honestly. It was because I felt like this weight of responsibility and I kind of got in my head. So we're going to do another shoot, and it's kind of that weird balance, like with actors, like you have to get excited enough, but not overexcited. Otherwise you can get overstimulated and kind of fall flat.
Got it. You know, I really applaud you, Bryan, because I'm a strong proponent of effective communication, because if you have that, so many problems can be resolved, and everything is just so much smoother, so much better. So fantastic. Okay, let's move on to Velvet Collar Comics, your comic book company. Is there a significance behind Velvet Collar? Any meaning?
Well, yes. Velvet Collar is my description of the people in the sex industry. And it came from observing handles like blue collar, white collar for different members of the workforce industry. And one day I just imagined that the texture of my business was velvet. So that's it's a reference. It's basically a reference to a working class name, sensuality, because velvet is sensual. The collar, which also has connotations of restraint, bondage, capitalism. So it's got lots of layers of meaning. So once I said that phrase out loud, it's like this is the right thing.
Okay, and the theme is you have these 5 escorts having various issues and trying to make it through their lives, correct?
Yep. I 5 that I knew and still know, and they are dealing with the aftermath of their lives being disrupted and adapting to the new world. And I was hoping to write something like Pretty Woman meets Mission Impossible, but it turned. Yes, that's what I'm going for. And when it finally becomes a TV, when it becomes a TV series, I'm going to say it was the easiest thing in the world. It just came to me. Never mind the hours of sleepless nights trying to create internally consistent characters and motivations and arcs for so many people. Never mind.
Well, look, man, I get it because I'm finishing my new novel, right? So I totally get what you're talking about. What's your audience for?
How many characters are you managing in your novel?
Hold on, let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 8.
Okay, so you're managing a lot.
Yeah.
You're managing a lot.
Yeah, there are 3 main characters and 5 on the periphery. Yeah, but still, though, you have to give each one their just due, right? So, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And let's see. The tough part was I'm writing issue 4 right now. I've started 105 times, and I did not want to slip into sci-fi or paranormal fantasy.
Okay.
And basically, I wanted to answer the question how someone like me or others like me could change the status quo in any significant way. And I have thought a lot about it, and surprisingly difficult. Like when I wrote something and I wanted to write something that was plausible. Might not be very plausible, but plausible. Exactly. So right now we just had a lottery drawing for nearly $2 billion. And I started to consider a la Brewster's Millions, what if one of us got that kind of money, what would we do with it?
Right.
And $2 billion just doesn't go a long way.
Not anymore.
Doesn't go a long way. You might be able to save one person's world. You might be able to save your friend's world, but you can't save the world. So
nope.
What do you do? So it's when it finally comes out, it will be satisfying. And this is a thank you to my fans and supporters and friends and clients for your trust and faith in me, that I will produce something of literary and personal value that you will all enjoy, because it will come. It's just the pregnancy is just a little bit delayed.
Well, do you have?
That's how.
Do you have?
No, that's how I've been telling people that the writing process is a pregnancy.
It is. It is. Well, do you have a projected finish date?
Nope, I do not. And it is very humbling for me to have to admit that, because once I hit the block, I decided to go in the opposite direction and start experiencing life and collecting experiences. I mean, I'm trying to collect as many fresh and original experiences as I can. Mm-hmm. And I have faith that once I do, that the pieces will fall into place. I'm supposed to have an interview with an 80-year-old man sex worker who's been working since he was 17 years old. And I'm so looking forward to that because he's still working. He's got a civilian job, but he's still taking clients. And there are all these mysterious figures in the background that are kind of like in rumors. Like there's they're just kind of floating around. I want to find them now, and I want to talk to them and have coffee with them and hear about their lives, because I hope that by hearing about these almost mythical figures that I can bring something of value to the readers.
No, let me get this straight. You said that this individual began sex work at 17. He's 80 right now, and he's still seeing clients.
Yep. Not as much as he used to, but yes.
Whoa. That is, as Mr. Spock from Star Trek would say, that's just fascinating. That's wow. Okay. Well,
I would have liked to meet Leonard Nimoy. I sat with his memorial in Los Angeles for a while. I remember the day he passed away. I was in Los Angeles, and I was working maybe about a block away from where his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was. And I still remember getting up that morning and seeing all the memorials for him. Good man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Before we jet out of here, how can we grown folk connect with you, Bryan, contact you? Give us all of your social media.
Well, if you can reach me on Instagram and Twitter at Bryan Knight 66. I'm on Facebook as well. I have my Rentman and Rentmaster profiles in my personal website, and I'm open to collaborations, both for adult and for creative works. I'm always looking for comic book illustrators and creatives. I invite other workers who might be listening to this, even civilians who have workers in their lives, to say hello and reach out to me. I invite people to reach out to me and ask questions. I'm on Instagram. Someone just reached out to me interviewing for a paper on subcultures, and it's a process, but I do like, as long as your approach is ethical and equitable, I'm okay helping out. So I want people to ask questions and feel empowered to help others live better lives.
Wonderful. Well, Mr. Bryan Knight, thank you for stopping by. Wyatt, man, this has been a really engaging, entertaining, and insightful interview, my brother.
Thank you for making this possible.
Listen, my pleasure. So there you have it. You can find the official Wyatt podcast page at WyattEvans.com. The go-to destination, y'all, for news, features, entertainment, and commentary for the LGBTQ community. WyattEvans.com is visited by more than 100 countries on the regular. All I can say to that is, yeah, baby. And at WyattEvans.com, you'll find my smoking hot, Nothing Can Tear Us Apart series of novels. The latest installment is Frenzy! Yeah, Frenzy! Frenzy is just chock full of masculine romance, passion, danger, intrigue, action, and a good deal of erotica thrown in for good measure. And its predecessor is Rage, all at WyattEvans.com. And the sequel, the next installment in the Nothing Can Tear Us Apart series of novels, will be released soon. More information coming. And if you want to, drop me a line, contact me, your host, Wyatt O'Brien Evans. Hit me up at WyattOnAir@gmail.com. And I'm all over social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and it's all there, poof, right in front of your faces. So until next time, y'all, woof, goddammit, woof, 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 woof.